Truth, lies, shenanigans.
Rob B, what is Biden up to?
Well, this week on June 15th, to mark Pride Month, President Biden signed an executive order advancing equality for LGBTQ individuals in the US. So, more notably, the executive order helps to address discriminatory legislative attacks against the LGBT community, specifically children, families, key agencies, and just to help protect families and children, to prevent so called conversion therapy, to safeguard healthcare and programs designed to prevent youth suicide, to support the LGBTQ community, children, families, and launching new initiatives to protect foster youth, to prevent homelessness and improve access to federal programs, and takes new and additional steps to advance LGBTQ equality. So, I wanted you to perhaps share your thoughts on the significance of this executive order.
Johnny, what do you think?
So I think, well, when I read this, I was like, okay, Biden, the administration, they mean business. This is serious. Of course, when it gets to that level, it's always serious. But then I did obviously some more look into the states that could possibly oppose, and Florida being the main one, and
Fucking
it just
Florida.
made me think,
Can't stand Florida.
yeah, I know. Yeah, Florida being the main one, of course, it just made me think like who really has the power? Like, I'm really, just to say I'm really proud, and I'm really glad that Biden's doing this, and finally putting some uh I guess some authority
Some
behind
teeth,
those
yeah, some teeth
laws.
to it. Yep.
Yeah, to make equality happen. I would like to see that for women's rights, especially. We'll talk about it after, but
No,
um, I've made me think about who really has the power. Do we have, as the people, have the power, or I know Rob might ask this question later, but the states, who really has the power to make these laws happen, to make us all equal?
what do you think, Rob? You want to respond to that real quick?
I, Absolutely, the people have the power because we're the ones that put the elected officials in power. We're the ones that demand better of them, and we can demonstrate when they really screw up, and we can support them and or help support initiatives that we feel strongly about. But yeah,
Yeah, Dr. J.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one, it's just sad that people have to fight for equality to just live and be. That there is no reason for this discrimination other than just on a religious basis, and we are supposed to be a separation of church and state. The concerns that I have is that, this is an executive order, which means that depending on what the next administration is, it can be overturned. And the question is, I mean, if this is the jumpstart to making some more permanent changes. And, also too, across the board, like Gianni said, there's women's rights, there's women issues that need to be discussed. There are minority issues that need to be discussed. So, if they can successfully get this passed, then will that open the door for other groups to get the safeguards so that they can just live like this? They're not asking for anything that anyone else is not entitled to under what our Constitution says: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah,
So
I was
frustrating
feeling.
that,
I'm going good.
I'll say it's frustrating that we're still fighting this. Stonewall riots were,
You
I
know,
mean, they weren't that long ago, but they were.
Yeah,
And, how much farther have we gotten since then, which is, the same to be said. The rights
it's
movement, women's
It's funny
rights
that you
movement,
mentioned Stonewall because that's like some of the mentality in the US is still very pre Stonewall. The people who are really opposed to the LGBT
hmm
community. And it makes no sense that that draconic thinking from decades ago is
they
still so
haven't grown.
pervasive, right?
I
The
think
So
it's
there's a
society.
segment of
religious.
society that hasn't grown at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Go,
still
Joanna.
religious thinking. A lot of those states like Florida, it mentioned Alabama, they mentioned a lot of like the southern, like old religious ways of doing things. and
Mm-hmm.
and not to bash on anybody's religion, of course, but it's just like, how did we get the law and religion so entangled to now it's like dividing us almost? It's like so much division in this country. I'm sure everywhere, but it just feels like more
But the
specific.
the evangelicals of the nation are the ones holding that down. I mean, it's really what it comes down to. They're trying to get their agendas across, and everyone's got to uh, kind of just concede to whatever they're wanting. But I wanted to point out my comment was going to be along the lines of what Dr. J was saying, and it's an executive order, and I don't understand why these aren't laws. Why we're not our lawmakers are not making turning them into laws because like I say, I mean, he's only in there a couple more years. I mean, hopefully he wins the next election or someone wins the next election who is supportive. But this executive order goes away potentially. Um, so
Mhm.
that's my biggest
I,
concern is that it's not something more permanent because everyone deserves rights. You did mention the women's rights and the uh, you know
especially when it comes to the healthcare. Like I know, like Florida didn't want. Um, I do have my opinions about teaching gender, and you guys could probably fill me in. But
go ahead.
teaching gender, I forget what they call it, gender studies, I believe, to like kindergartners and in certain schools, and I'm like, I don't understand that, but I do understand teaching like sex education to people of a certain age group.
Mhm.
But I know that they were even challenging that. Like, so that's how I know it's totally religious mindset.
But I
I just want
think
to
you
say
have.
let me
Oh,
just say this. Let me just say this. So I think that when we're talking about teaching it to kids, we don't teach that stuff to kids anyway. We don't. That doesn't actually happen.
Right.
This is just theater. When they start talking about making laws about teaching it to kids and all this stuff, that's not actually happening. So it's like it's theater. It's just to get you talking about it. Yeah, I don't want it in my schools, and I don't want this, and I don't want that. But it's
Okay.
just theater. Go ahead, Dr. J.
I was gonna say, but here's the thing too, is that you know you're going to just be exposing kids to what they already see. There are families that are already same-sex families. So, it is just having, we do want inclusiveness to a certain extent. You want a child that's sitting in your class to know that their family is just as valid as any other classmate. You're
Hmm.
not
Mhm.
introducing, like, kids are much more resilient than people want to act like they are not. They are not
Yeah.
these fragile flowers. Yes, you need to help shape, mold, and get them to adulthood and all, but
Right.
they are resilient. They are, you can sit there and say, hey, there are different types of families, and these are different types of families, and kids are like, okay, so it's a snack time, and
Hmm.
they can keep
Mhm.
going on about it. And, it's like you're trying to hide this or try to make it wrong. And so then you're going to have a child sitting there
Questioning,
knowing, looking
wondering. Hmm.
or getting picked on because their family structure is different. I mean, it
Different.
wasn't that long ago to have a single parent family was, the taboo thing and all. So we're not we're just giving these kids the things that they're experiencing in life. Like you're not sheltering them from these, like, trust and believe, you are not sheltering these kids from stuff. They, whether you want to shelter them or not, they're going to learn it
They
and
know
they're
the
going to bring
internet.
it.
They know Google
Yep.
better than we do. Let me just get
I'm,
some
And
I'm
comments.
saying,
as a parent, that's
Go
your
ahead.
job is to provide context for what your children are seeing because they are
Yeah.
seeing it. You have to provide the proper context.
Yep. So Latoya Blakely says, right? Why can't people just hold on? Why can't people just live? Somebody doesn't want to live the same as you, so effing what? You put more energy. If people put more energy into minding their own dumpster fire lives, we'd be a lot better off. Mike Winter says, Bama's in the U.S. Capitol need to do the work to pass a bill. He says, Neo, they took almost 150 years to pass anti-lynching legislation. You know this. Yeah, I do. Um,
Mm.
let's see. Latoya also continued, I'm sorry, and the people who have that mentality are in no way affected by what's going on in that community. What the hell? It's maddening that the most logical resolution is everybody just minding their damn business, but no one can seem to do it. Um,
Nope.
one more comment. It's a regression because certain people are terrified about the future where they no longer have their power and privilege.
Yeah,
Robbie?
Mhm.
that's
Absolutely. That's that lands really, really well. So, Johnny, I'm glad that you were talking about the states that are really, opposing it because oh, I can think of just a few politicians off the top of my head, and I'm grinning where it's just like, oh no, like the fear that they have. Not only are they homophobes passing these laws, now
Yeah.
the government's coming for them, right? And
Yeah.
I'd like what Mike Winter had to say because it does take time to affect real change. And despite the fact that it is only an executive order, it is something. It's a step in the right direction by the Oval Office, and
It's something.
hopefully it will resound well with the people of America, and they will continue to put these people in power so that they can then turn this into bills, into actual concrete laws to protect and enshrine all Americans who might be disenfranchised or at risk.
Let's talk about this religious freedom. Because there's a couple of comments on that. So Jeanette Brown says, Mike Winter, this country was founded on religious freedom by people escaping religious persecution. But when you use the master's tools to build the new house, you bring the same problems you were trying to flee. Jacqueline Robinson says the Constitution is very unambiguous about this. There will be no established religion, period. So is this a religious issue? I'll start with Dr. J
I
on that
mean,
one.
there's no other, there's been, I have yet to see any other um, argument that isn't based on religion as a reason to discriminate.
Mm.
I just have not had anybody come up with any argument that has been anything that is not religious based.
I
And
agree.
it's, you don't want to practice it, don't practice it. And the funny, not funny, but the interesting thing that's always been is that a lot of these Congress or these politicians who have been so anti LGBTQ, give it a little time and those bones come out of their closet and we find out that they are not too far and often are part of that same community. So, you know, again,
Mm.
they're just living.
I love what Mike Winter says here, and I agree with it 100%. This is not religion. It's not about religion. It is control in the guise of religion. And that has always been my take on that, is that, and that's what, and oftentimes religion is
Hmm.
used in that manner
Yeah.
to
It is a
control.
tool. It is the opiate of the masses, and it is a tool that is used effectively by
Yeah.
all world governments.
Yeah. Johnny, you were going to say something?
No, you took it. I think that Mike said that was Mike, right? That commented.
Yeah, Mike Winter. Hmm.
He said it perfectly. He said it perfectly, as if it's they use religion. They're not religious themselves, like Dr. J just said.
That's a good
Guys
point.
are hypocrites, really. A lot of them are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, most of them aren't following the the rules of their own religions.
I know me.
So,
No.
Latoya
Like,
Blakely says,
have you even picked up a Bible? Like, really, have you read
right.
the Bible? Because
Hmm.
what you're saying is not in there.
That reminds me of Donald Trump when he was tear gassing people and walked up to that church holding the holding the Bible. That dude has never. I'm surprised it didn't burn up in flames. To be honest with you.
I'm sure he found a verse to support his actions because that sounds like something out of the Bible playbook.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Actually, our lovely Lizzie is online. She says, "I had this has nothing to do with religion. It is pure hate. To suggest that this is based on religion suggests that people uh, in the LGBT community do not believe in any type of higher power or God." Um, and Latoya Blakely says, That's what breaks my heart the most. Children who don't understand why something they can't control could make them so hated will take their lives before you can really begin to thank uh, the hateful begin thanks to the hateful things being said by people the most they love the most, I think.
And that's the thing, definitely too. Like, everybody, everyone, someone in the LGBT community is close to them, whether that
Mhm.
person is out in the open or they may still be in the closet. And the words that you are saying is really hurting somebody who you claim to love. And that, as a parent, if a child who comes out and says, hey, I think these are the feelings that I have, you know, it's a way to sit there and have a discussion with them and to say, you can say what your beliefs are, whether you agree with it or not. You can have that discussion about what your beliefs are. But I think it's really important to walk this child through and not necessarily shut them down immediately, and or anyone who comes to you. Like, you are excluding people that you claim to love, and you are hurting them. And this is what this legislation is trying to do, to say, hey, you don't even realize who you're hurting. You don't even realize who you're driving to potentially commit suicide.
Mm,
And that again is against your religion. Thou shalt not kill, and you are indirectly killing these people.
yep, 100%.
Yeah, good
Well
point.
said. I like that.
All right. We have run out of time for this topic. So, is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
Some truth.
It's true.
Some truth. Everybody's got some truth. Okay, Dr. J's saying truth.
Truth.
All right.
Truth.
Cool. Yeah, it's good to see. Good to see finally something happening more definitively. So, it says Mike Winter says speak on it, Dr. J. Claire Blakely says truth. Truth.